community, which is the panel we featured actually yesterday with two presenters. But I wanted to reserve this for a special moment. It is dedicated to a person that has left an imprint on so many lives, not just within his field, within his specialty, but for his entire community where he lived, and that is Dr. Mircea Fotino, the director of Boulder Lab for high voltage electron microscopy at the University of Colorado. He is a person that I've met, but one that has had a bigger impact on my wife's arrival in the United States, and at the time she spent in Colorado. So I'm not sure if she'd be able to join us and say a few words in having this in memoriam moment for Professor Fotino. We'll have, I believe, Professor Bogdan Dragnea from the chemistry department at Indiana University, Bloomington. I hope he's with us. And
yes,
there you are. And I believe we're also joined by Dr. Fotino's wife, Professor Ingrid Fotino, and his daughters, whom we know so well.
I'm here, Theo, and I will say a few words before giving the floor Professor Dragnea. But first, I want to welcome Ingrid, Adriana, and Dominica. Thank you so much for being here with us. It means a lot to us because we really want to honor Professor Mircea Fotino, who played, as Theo mentioned, a huge role for many people, and among those I can count myself, because he was not only an amazing scientist, an amazing professor, mentor, but he also was a very kind and absolutely wonderful human being, and that was reflected in everything he has done for the Romanian community in Colorado. There are many people here who can testify to that, and for me personally, he was the model as a mentor and a model of a Romanian American. I really hope we can, in everything we do and what I do, I can do maybe portion of what he has done for the Romanian community in Colorado. And I was very sorry, and I'm very sorry that he's not with us any longer, but he will be carried in our memory and in everything we do forever. And I'm very appreciative for him and the way he raised his daughters and in everything they do. I'll stop here. This is an emotional section of the program, but I think others can speak also, testify to amazing work and life of Mircea Fotino.
Thank you, Ramona.
okay, yes, indeed. Dr. Fotino was an inspiring man, a pacemaker for the heartbeat of the Romanian community in Boulder, Colorado. He knew and enjoyed life in more than one way, but I would like to say a few words at this forum about his professional and scientific legacy, which might or might not be perceived the same way as I have after I got to talk to him about his science, and then later I looked at how his career might have evolved and tried to piece these puzzle pieces together for you today, so that we can remember him with one more facet. I will argue that he was a very unreasonable man, and that's why we love him. So let me give a little bit of detail here. So I had the privilege to meet Professor Fotino about 24 years ago in Boulder. He was then about to retire from the Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology Department at CU Boulder. And I was on a postdoctoral fellowship at the NIST Institute, specializing in measurement physics. Professor Fotino earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Paris. His PhD in physics was from University of California at Berkeley. He returned after that to Paris to work at the CNRS, then back to the US at Harvard for a few years. And up to this point in his career, he specialized in particle accelerators, the kind that are used nowadays in high energy colliders. And he learned how to accelerate electrons to ridiculous speeds, close to the speed of light. And so I thought that matched very well his flamboyant personality. And so you cannot break the speed of light, but you can get very close to it. And so in 1972, Dr. Fotino makes a bold move, I thought, from the metropolitan areas where he lived until then to CU Boulder, in the middle of a high desert, and starts turning one of these particle accelerators on its head, like literally. Normally, accelerators are laying flat like this. Now, he designed something that points like that, down, so that you can introduce a sample, a target for the electron beam. The idea is that if you have electrons hitting an atom of a sample, they will scatter from it, and the heavier atoms scatter better. If one maps these scattering events spatially, one gets a magnified chemical picture of the sample. That's electron microscopy in a nutshell for you. Electrons can create much higher resolution maps than photons because they interact more locally with matter. Also, the faster they go, the deeper they penetrate. And so they offer access to the three-dimensional view of the sample in principle. And boy, did Mircea know how to make them go fast. That was his years of accelerator physics at energies of giga electron volts. Anyway, but working with relativistic electrons for imaging is a very bold endeavor. And he had times he was used to. And I imagine he did that begrudgingly. Otherwise, he would have probed much more than his sample if he didn't do that. But he stopped at 1 million volts. And there was only one other place in the world that had something similar at University of Madison, Wisconsin. The Wisconsin people trained theirs onto minerals, so hard matter that could withstand the electron bullets. But the Boulder crew, led by Fotino, focused their electron gun on a dry biological sample. They wanted to reveal the innards in 72. They said, this is how we are going to reveal the inside structure of a cell. Now, the cell then had to be dry because the electron beam needs a vacuum to propagate. But molecules, as we know, the molecules of life need water. And so they made it work then in 72, but their sample was a husk of a living cell. And so there were, for about 8 years, in a struggle to figure out how to bring water in the microscope. Obviously, in a vacuum, water will evaporate. And so they wanted to freeze the water and have the molecules of life, if you want, frozen in their native state. And then solid water would, if it's very cold, very, very cold, it will not sublimate, it will not evaporate, and you would have a snapshot of what was going on in a cell that was frozen, literally, in ice. The problem is that ice likes to make crystals, and the crystal lattice distorts the structure of the biological molecule or cell even. And so in 1980, someone by the name Alasdair McDowell in Lausanne demonstrated that you can actually freeze very fast water before it has time to crystallize into ice. And that material was vitreous ice, and it's supposed to be a copy of how liquid water looks like. And so just 3 years later, Mircea Fotino talks at the conference. I have found a meeting abstract by him talking about studies of cellular fine structure by low temperature, high voltage electron microscopy. So he just needed 3 years to take the McDowell's vitreous ice idea and implement it into his high voltage microscope. However, this was 1 year ahead of a seminal paper in 84 by Marc Adrian and Jacques Dubochet. They published in the journal Nature the article Cryo-Electron Microscopy of Viruses. And that was the first cryogenic electron microscopy paper with the highest impact. So seems like poor Mircea, kind of got scooped. But he had his sights on entire cells. This paper of Adrian and Dubochet was on viruses. And the trick there is that viruses are much smaller. So the electrons have to pass through a much thinner sample. While Mircea was thinking about something that actually was going to be realized only 50 years after he thought about. And so the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Jacques Dubochet, Joachim Frank, Richard Henderson in 2017 for the development of cryo-electron microscopy, which both simplifies and improves the imaging of biomolecules. So this is a big difference between Dubochet and Fotino, because Dubochet said in an interview, I wanted to democratize electron microscopy. I don't think that the 1 million volt microscope of Mircea could have been democratized, but it was part of a vision, and that vision has started just now to be, through recent technological progress, to develop due to mainly other technologies that didn't exist in his time. But internal devices in the modern electron microscopes, the ones that can now reveal the three-dimensional structure of a cell, still resembles assemblies like those in the machine designed by him. You can see it on pictures. And so, unfortunately, the electrons are not running close through towering columns to the speed of light anymore. It's a pity, but that heroic approach was unreasonable for physical reasons dealing with the quirky nature of water. We now only understand. But I would paraphrase George Bernard Shaw and say, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. The reasonable man is going to adapt himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. And therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So in that sense, Mircea was quite unreasonable, and we dearly loved him for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I finally understand what my husband did. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Instead of a moment of silence, a moment of rejoicing in his life and his spirit, there are so many people that have something to say. I see here Christina Bejan, I see Sebastian Doriano, you're welcome to share with us if you so feel moved to do so. Christina, yeah.
Oh, well,
Sebastian, you're on mute.
I said I
Sorry.
should let Sebastian go first because they were like best friends. But I will just be very brief. Mircea Fotino, Professor Mircea Fotino, and his family were so welcoming when my family moved to Denver in 2019, and still are so warm and loving. So I would just say he was the patriarch of the Romanian community in Colorado. He was so close, you know, not just with the community members, but also our priest here, who is a leader in his own right, the Orthodox Romanian Church. And I just want to thank Ingrid specifically, because Ingrid wrote a very powerful memoir about her life that I've been able to teach to my students at Metropolitan State University of Denver. And she's also visited my students to share her life story. So the entire Fotino family, they are leaders, and I've just been so blessed to know them, and I want to just send my love. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christina.
We have been blessed to know you too.
I would like to say a couple of words too, and I'm so happy to see here so many people who knows Mircea, because he was a wonderful, wonderful man. I always said that the life is a beautiful journey where you have the opportunity to meet wonderful and interesting people, and one of these person was Mircea Fotino. When we moved here 24 years ago in Colorado, we had the opportunity to meet the Fotino's family. And because we talk about Mircea today, I just want to say that he was, some say that he was a legend. I say more like that. I think that he was a spiritus rector for Romanians in Colorado, because he had a very, very sharp mind, and he was open to discuss anything. Bogdan said before that he was, I can't remember exactly what word he used, but I think that he was an open mind, and he was always ready to accept any challenge. And I'm not talking about science, I'm talking about any discussion, and he was open to engage in any fight for Romanian cause. For me as a historian, he was a page of history, because he escaped from Romania from a communist Russian invasion, and everywhere he was, he tried to keep the Romanian spirit up. I have from him a lot of pictures and a lot of papers, and I remember one of the picture with him and Monica Lovinescu. Maybe you remember, this year will be 100 years from Monica Lovinescu born. So a picture with Mircea Fotino and Monica Lovinescu in Paris in Romanian national costume at University of Paris in 1948, trying to keep the Romanian spirit, to keep the fight against the communism in exile. He was one of the prominent figure in Romanian exile in France and in America, of course, and here in Colorado, where I had the chance to talk with him, as I said, many times. He was one of the most optimistic person I met in my life, because he was always trying to do everything he can to help Romanians, and not only Romanians in exile, but Romanians in Romania, to understand what democracy is, the real democracy, not the original democracy, the real democracy. I have a copies from him to a lot of letters he sent to congressmen, American congressmen, to newspapers in America, where he tried to explain the Romanian history, where in the past it was made a mistake in Romanian history, and what Romania means for Europe, not only for Europe, for the world. And I think that he was one of the fighters who deserved to be applauded for his activity, that today Romania is in NATO, is in European structures, and that we here in Colorado, we are still in Romanian spirit all the time, as Christina said, and Bogdan and Ramona and Ingrid. He was one of the Romanian who left a mark here in Colorado. Romanian Festival and RAFA, Romanian American Freedom Alliance, our organization of Romanians here in Colorado, were part of his, and they are part of his legacy. And I want to salute his daughters and his wife and all his friends here. And we remember him as the gentle, sharp-minded person. Thank you.
Deeply moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you for everything that you do, and for his legacy, which is now in spread throughout the United States, not just in Colorado, but definitely he has left an imprint in the community that he has carried on his shoulders for decades, and that imprint will stay with all of us. And it is difficult to move from such a moment. I'm not sure if Dominica or if any of would like to say a word.
I think we're just so grateful at the beautiful way that you've honored him
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
So much.
It is.
Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you, Sebastian, for capturing him in ways. Bogdan, you have better appreciation than anyone here, but it is really nice to see years of trying to understand what he did nicely simplified to a way that we can remember his work. And Sebastian, thank you for remembering his efforts historically and culturally.
I would just say, my daughter said it's so much better, but I am amazed at what you did in his honor and deeply moved. Thank you.
Very moving.
We are grateful to him.